Hey everybody, it's your old buddy John, and you have once again found the Sketch Podcast. I am here, as always, with publisher Bob Hickey and editor Bill Nichols, and tonight we're talking about webcomics. How you doing, guys?
Doing great, Johnny.
Hey, John, it's Bob. Doing good.
All right, so webcomics, kind of a new thing for us old fogies here to be thinking about. We're used to our comics in that ever popular paper form. But webcomics have really become the hot ticket lately. A lot of folks are getting really into them, including yourself, Bob.
Yeah.
What's the allure of webcomics for you?
Well, there are several things. I spent the past couple of years researching them, and really they offer a huge opportunity, but it's a totally different method of publishing. Um, Coming from this old school of create your comic, go get it printed, distribute it, take it out, build your readership. And you build your readership either by asking stores to carry your books or getting out and doing lots of conventions and trying to build it on hand sales. The web offers you the ability to build your readership online. Now, they haven't really created other than a way to pay for like online publishing as far as like daily or a couple times a week as far as a pay method. So what you sort of depend on is a different way in building your readership. Of course, unless you're selling your digital comics like through Apple or Sony or Amazon, iTunes, through Comixology, then you can, you package your comics sort of traditionally, and then you sell a digital version. But if you're publishing online as a web comic, it's a different beast. You're creating a comic and you're giving it away for free. And then the trick is figuring out how to merchandise once you've built a readership up, once you have people coming, to merchandise this property to offset investing your time into creating it. So it's more work. You have to use more skills because you can't just be an artist and send it out. You've got to merchandise it. You've got to market it. You got to build a readership. You got to really promote, and you got to keep it. The biggest thing with webcomics is to make sure it hits every day that you say it hits. If you say it hits once a week, it needs to hit once a week. If you say twice a week, twice a week. If you say 5 times a week, it needs to be there 5 times a week. So it's a lot of work. But I think the payoff can really build up. It just takes time. And I know we've talked about webcomics in the past off and on, because you guys have been working with me on launching this Closeway.com strip. And
Mm-hmm.
I'd really said we really come back to it. Well, uh, we're right about 2.5 months into it. So I feel like we're still majorly newbies on this, but we can discuss it, and we can let people know what we researched, where we're at, and what we're going to do first quarter next year. So yeah, webcomics. Um, there are some webcomics out there who has huge readerships, unbelievable readerships, as far as how many hits they get when they post a new page. Hundreds of thousands. If printed comics was getting those, oh my goodness, it'd be great.
Oh
We're
yeah.
not. That's the problem. Um,
Right.
but it's I have my quote unquote morning paper. I sit down here first thing in the morning, my bowl of Cheerios and my Coke Zero, and I'll go hit some of the news sites, catch up on comic news, and then I've got about 4 sites that I hit every morning because they're 5 days a week. And there's another site that's Monday, Wednesday, Friday that I hit. So those are my reads. I contribute. I either pick up a trade at a con where I see these guys, or buy something online ever so often, just to sort of a thank you. Thank you for offering this up, and I'll support you so you can keep on doing it. So um, it's amazing, but these aren't new. It's new to us. But you got guys like Scott Kurtz that's been doing it over 10 years. Now, could you imagine reading an online comic 10 years ago every day?
No.
I didn't. I didn't until about 3 years ago when I started thinking about this could be a method in the publishing. But yeah, there's guys that are way ahead of us and really have created a huge market for themselves.
That's true. I mean, look at Kurtz. Look at to. I'm trying to think of some of the other big
Penny
names.
Arcade.
Penny Arcade's one of
Those
them.
guys are doing unbelievable numbers. They are, I mean, Penny Arcade, they even have their own expos two
Right.
times a year now. Unbelievable amount of hits when they post. Their merchandising is very selective, very keyed up to their readers. They post 3 times a week, Monday, Wednesday, Fridays. Then on Tuesdays
Yeah.
and Thursdays, they post blogs. So they have content 5 days a week, but they just draw 3. Those guys started after Kurtz. Kurtz was actually before them. But both of those
Right.
sites have something in common that's much wider audience than just comics. And they're based off of gaming. Whether it's video games or board games or, Penny Arcade is based about those guys are running a gaming magazine inside the strip. So they're constantly playing games. So I think that's how they keyed in onto an audience that was acceptable and that was probably looking for entertainment online a lot earlier than, say, comic book fans was looking for. So they found a niche. They were able to play it.
Yeah, and it is interesting the kind of diversity of webcomics. I mean, you and I both like the comic Kookaburra.
Oh yeah.
I mean, it's really beautiful, highly detailed. You know, would have to take the man a lot of time, a piece of work. Then on the other end of the spectrum, you have things that are not saying they don't take the artist a lot of time, but they're a lot less involved, a lot more just very simple black line art, if even that a lot of the times. I've come across a few comics here and there that are very little more than stick people.
Yeah, I'm trying to think of the one that has xkcd.com.
Not
It's
familiar with that one.
it's mostly stick figures, poorly drawn figures, but
Right.
it's written. It's sarcasm, mathematics. It's like the Office Geek, and their
Right.
readership is astronomical for the work that they put into it. Just unbelievable the amount of readers they have.
And it's kind of interesting the range, just from subject matter. Beyond the artwork standpoint, you've got things that tend to be more autobiographical. A lot of times, I can think of 2 right off the top of my head. There's one, despite the provocative name, it's not really a provocative strip so much as it is then about this girl's life. It's called The Devil's Panties. And it's about the artist. It's kind of a stylized look at the artist's life. And then there's another webcomic called Dar that I encountered last year at Heroes Con. I found the collected webcomics of the artist, and it
She did
it kind of chronicles her journey.
exactly through all kinds of stuff.
Yeah. Oh yeah, I mean, from it deals with her sexuality. It deals with her changing her sexuality throughout the story of the book, essentially. So it was actually a really interesting read, and something that you don't, always see, and probably wouldn't get to see had it been any sort of regular mainstream kind of comic.
Right.
The mainstream, especially, and even to some extent the smaller press, tends to shy away from a lot of the more personal stories. It's just not something they get into. But you see it quite often in webcomics.
Right. I think it's because you can connect with these people. a little bit. And yeah, the Dar book, I think she ended it. She sort of wrapped it
Yeah, I
up,
think so.
and but yeah, I had never heard of it. You had brought it up in a previous podcast, so I researched it, and
Right.
it's not my cup of tea, and not every web comics out there, but I read a bunch of them. I appreciate what the creator did and what she went through, and that she
Right.
laid it all out there on the web for everybody to read. So um, very interesting, very interesting. Hey Bill, you still there?
Yeah, I'm here.
So web comics, we sort of discussed
I
what
think.
they are, correct?
Hmm.
Um, how about we can discuss how to finance them later on. But
Right. Well,
go ahead.
we could probably also make some mention of how to deal with creating
Yeah,
those.
that's where I was heading.
Okay.
How could you? What do you put? Let me phrase this right. Um, what do you want to put on the web? What do you want to offer? What do you want to create? What do you want other people out there to read? Basically for free. Those are things that I looked at when I decided to try publishing on the web. There are certain things I messed around with publishing some of the printed books online, like the Blood and Roses and stuff, was get any
Hmm.
readership, and that's a difference. Before we talk about what to publish, just talk about some formats. There's several formats. There's a full comic page, like our friend Laura Inez does with the
Right.
Dreamer. She posts once or twice a week now, I think, once a week. And it's a full comic page. She's telling the whole story. When she gets an issue done, she prints it in a comic, and she's just putting it all out there. She's building a great readership. She had a trade out there published by IDW. Um, and then on the flip side, you have web strips, and that's what we're doing with closeway.com. It seems to be that the web strips are more popular. They build an audience quicker. They are a quick read, just like your Sunday strips that you get in the funnies. You're not spending a lot of time on the site. You zip in, you read it, you're there a couple minutes. Actually, I can tell you how long people are there. Average time is about a minute and a half to 2 minutes. That's why I'm looking at the closeway.com strips. That's an average time on it, long enough to read it, look it over, and you're gone. You move on. They're quick reads. And I think that's what a lot of appeal is to people. They are easy, they're quick, you get your punch, you get your lift or your laughter, and then you move on. So that's really the two formats. I mean, the comic page doesn't have to be full page. It could be a short panel. It could be, I think Dar, she had a little bit different size page
Hmm.
layouts than a normal standard comic, which is fine because any more comics are any size you want them to be. Um, so yeah, it's those are the two formats you can go. Um, if you're going to do a daily post or a couple times a week, to me it only made sense to go with a strip. They're easier. I'd never written a strip before we started Claysway, but they're
Right.
easier to do and less artwork. Maybe 3 panels. Especially if you're trying to do them in color, you don't have to. It's not a necessity, but it seems to attract the reader a little bit more. Um, and just to crank it out. That doesn't mean you have to have a beginning, middle, end in every strip. Um, you could do multiple strip crossover storylines. So, and we'll get back to that. So, what you're going to offer on the net? What are you looking for? What are you looking to do? As I always say, make sure whatever you start, it's something that you're going to want to produce every day. Something you want to work on every day. Don't do it because, well, gaming strips are cool. I'm going to go create a gaming strip. Hell, I don't even know anything about gaming. I really don't care about gaming. Don't do that. Do your strips and Make it something that you enjoy. And if you enjoy it, the odds are eventually you're going to build that readership up to enjoy it with you. Make sense?
Yeah, very much so. And I can kind of put forth my 2 cents, even if you're not going daily, even if it's weekly. Make sure it's definitely a schedule you can deal with. Because I did a weekly web strip for a while, but I let it get away from me.
Mm-hmm. It's easy to do.
It's very easy to do, and I found myself getting from where I was ahead of the game to trying to finish the strip the day before it was due, and it just got to be too much. So I ended up closing the strip down. Now, I have another strip that I'm planning, but I want to make sure I get way ahead before I unveil this strip because it's very easy to get away from you, and it can go from being something you want to do to becoming kind of a chore
Well,
after a
I think no
while.
matter what you run into that. I mean, I've hit it with Claysway. We're 20, 21 strips into Claysway now. It's been 2 times a week.
Right.
There's been times, as you and Bill both know, Bill goes to bed early because he gets up early to his job. I have to
Right.
tag John to edit it because it's 10:30 Monday night, and I'm still trying to make that Monday night post. That's not the way to do it. I mean, I really don't like when the sites that I hit don't have their post up that morning because that's my time to go read. I do find out it's sort of funny that with Claysway, I publish twice a week. A lot of people only reads it on Friday and it backs up to Monday. So
Right.
they're going to read both only at one visit. So, um, but yeah, that constant, you just got to be a routine. Right now, like where we're at with Claysway is that I'm working on this strip for Friday. I'm going to go ahead and try to wrap up the strip for Monday before I leave for Atlanta Friday morning too. Or at least get it
Right.
lettered. I can always color it on the go. But to get it edited, I need to go ahead and get it lettered. I have enough strips to finish out till Christmas penciled.
Mhm.
My goal next week when I get back is to get all those strips done. Get the whole month posted. We drew our Christmas strip today. So
Right.
we physically have enough strips in our hands to take us to Christmas. And then we sit down and she started plotting. I plotted. She started penciling the next story. We're going to do our first multiple strip story arc right after Christmas. And we're introducing our last main character into the strip. And so I'd already written a good plot for it. And she started breaking down strips and stuff. So it's going to be a multiple storyline, maybe 5 or 6 strips. And at that point, we're hoping to go 3 times a week. It really depends on my schedule if I can handle it. Ink and coloring and getting everything else done. But it can be a chore very quickly as long as, I enjoy Claysway because it's so well connected with my family. It's about my family.
Right.
That I'll sit here at midnight or 1 o'clock working on it. I don't care. I like it. Do I like coloring? It's not my favorite job. I had some fun coloring some of the Thanksgiving strips because I had time to really spend on them and play around with backgrounds more. But it's not my favorite. I enjoy the inking part and the repenciling over Jackie's loose pencils. But the coloring is probably the biggest chore for me, but
Right.
I am getting a lot faster with it. But yeah, I mean, we're looking to hopefully get 2 months ahead. Because once con season kicks in, knowing that we'll do strips and throw them in between other stuff. But once con season starts out, I go one way, Jackie runs the other way. The good thing is we meet on Wednesdays to really draw right and everything, and usually we're back in town if you're doing cons for that. But as far as getting stuff done throughout the week, it's going to be hard. And we're talking 2 or 3 months of major con season this year for both of us.
Yeah. No
So
kidding.
yeah, and you, and so yeah, it's like we want to get a couple months ahead. That's why even though we got most of December's done, she's already penciling January's. So, and then, if we have something that pops up, like the strip I'm working on right now, it's referring to totallyADD.com, a site that
Right.
contacted us. Well, we decided to do a strip about them. So she drew it, I inked it, I'm almost got it colored, and we're going to slide it into the routine. We can still keep stuff. We can still throw out stuff that's either time related or something that just hits us. We want to do into the mix. So you got to stay ahead, and you got to do something you enjoy. You don't always have to do what's popular. You don't have to do Twilight vampires. You don't have to do Harry Potter type stuff, which I
Right.
really haven't seen. I don't read a ton of them, but I
Yeah.
haven't really seen anything like that. But there's some really, really good strips out there. But do something that you enjoy, and like I said, if you enjoy it and you're doing a well enough job with it, you will build a readership for it. And there's so many ways to build that readership, but we'll get to that. That's part of the marketing end of it.
Yeah, definitely. Well, I mean, luckily you have a built-in joke writer for you too, since a lot of this is coming straight out of Clay's mouth.
Yeah, yeah. For me, yeah, this latest one, the Red Robin, it was funny. I wrote on the paragraph underneath how it worked out. We sit outside on a porch swing waiting for the bus, and he leaned over to me real quietly. Nobody's around. I'm like, what's he? He goes, Dad, I got a strip. I'm like, you do? What is it? And he started telling me. As he's telling me it, he was getting so excited. He started bouncing around the porch, And I'm like, okay, was it that funny? Probably not, But to him, it was hilarious. And
Yeah.
as much, sometimes you just got to go, okay. So I wrote up something, and it was a good exercise for Jackie and I. The strip turned out nice and cute, as Bill put it.
Yeah, it was good.
Thanks, Bill. And but it really didn't move anything along. But you don't always do that. Sometimes you just do strips for fun, and that was a fun one. Sometimes.
Well, yeah.
Go ahead.
No, I was going to say I actually found trying to keep with the continuity a little harder than, just making the 4-panel gag
Yep.
every time.
I think as long as your characters are moving along, your
Yeah.
storyline doesn't have to so much be in continuity. Even though we try to throw some stuff out, like with Thanksgiving strip, we make a comment in there. Pan eats the turkey. We say, Clay goes, couldn't you just stuck with chocolate chip cookies? Well, that was referring
Right.
to Pan's intro, where he was eating chocolate chip cookies, and got Clay in trouble then. So we will refer to some of those things, but that's more character-based continuity,
Right.
not so much as a storyline continuity. Those keep short, and I mean, you got some sites out like PvP. Every once in a while, a panda bear shows up and kills Brant, man, slices him in two, and then next trip he's
Right.
back. It's like it never happened, So you can do that. It's fun.
Yeah.
It's real fun. So as far as far as what you're going to do, it can be very open, as long as you're willing to produce it. Art styles. There again, we talked about XKCD. It can be very open. Art styles can be very open. I think Dar was like a colored black and white, but it wasn't black and white. It was like blue and white or something, wasn't it?
Something like
Yeah.
that, yeah. And had little splashes of color every once in a while.
When it fit within the storyline.
Right. Whenever it was story appropriate, but more than anything else, it was, a single color strip.
Right. Now, I read Shelton.com, and it's about a little boy and his duck and his grandpa. It's black and white. He's held on to doing this black and white. Very traditionalist, hand letters and everything. But I enjoy it. I think sometimes you get hooked into the creator as much as you do the strip. And I think that's a good way to market your strip, is to get people involved in you and give them tidbits about you. Like I know the gentleman who draws Shelton, he used to be a toy designer for Kenner. And he was able to quit a day job, a good day job at Kenner, to do this online strip because he had built it up.
Wow.
Yeah. So that's the kind of readership and that's the kind of merchandising you can build up doing this. Now, a couple other strips that were black and white moved to color over the past couple of years, PvP being one of them. He was black and white, and he went color. And I think it's made a huge improvement on his site, on his strip. And then evilinc.com is another one that I read pretty often. And he, excuse me, it's sort of like those three, Sheldon, PvP, and Evil Inc. Those three guys running those sites, they're buds. They also run a website called WebComics.com where they offer a lot of tips and how-tos and everything. So those are, and his strip is about Evil Inc., where being a bad guy, they've incorporated it into a business. So Brett Geiger does it. He's got the funniest laugh. Oh my gosh. They do podcasting. Scott Kurtz and Brett Geiger. I think my computer just locked up. Dave Kellett and Chris Straub. He does a strip called Starship Crisis. They do a podcast like this, but they do it like on webcomics called Webcomics Weekly. It's not weekly, but when they do it, it's well worth listening to because they have a fountain of information. All these guys have been doing this for a long time, and I listened to every one of them before I started thinking about doing a web strip. I wanted as much information as possible. So those are definitely some cool strips. Like we said, we talked about Penny Arcade. Now, one strip that sort of bucks everybody else is Girl Genius. Girl Genius,
yeah,
he comes out 3 times a week, and it's a full comic page. So it sort of bucks the trend, but it's usually always voted one of the top web comics out there, and he offers up a full color page 3 times a week. As soon as they've got a storyline done, they collect it into a graphic novel and kick it out, and it does very well. We sold a ton of those at our store, so it does very well. I follow that one too. Okay, so you got your web comics. Bill, you sort of been doing this comic mentor. You're hitting mentor. You try to hit every day, right? With a post.
Oh yeah. It doesn't always work out that way, but yeah, being in break, if you watch your numbers and I do with Google AdSense, you can see, you sort of get an idea of sometimes what maybe somebody connects with, and if you're dealing with topical content, and comic strips and web comics and web strips are all that. Sometimes you can see which maybe which topic has legs, so to speak. But I try to do it every day if I can. But sometimes I'll do a day or two in advance if I'm on a roll. Sometimes it carries over, or when I'll be writing one and it sparks another idea or another thing where something I need to talk about tomorrow or bring back. And as I said before, I'm usually talking to myself first, so I'm a fount of things to fix. So so there you go. But yeah, regularity, and I've had people, that's how they maybe they start their day, or they come back, several times a week, and they need that fix, that pick me up, that sense of encouragement. And maybe like today's was about, Christmas is coming and reconnecting, and that's something that's been on my mind here lately with just people that and I'm interested to see, the response from that.
Right.
But I'm personally invested in comics mentor, just like you're invested
Mm-hmm.
in Clay's way. And I think a lot of webcomics, there is something about it. Sometimes it's not just about the comics; it's about the people who are behind the scenes,
Right.
who are creating them, and people feed into that because the creators, and a lot of times, especially with if they post things about their either the genesis of the strip or the idea that came that day, or like you do with Clay,
Well,
you tell what happened.
actually, it's funny is because I early on I did it a couple of times and then I didn't do it, and I had a couple of people on Facebook say, "Hey, why aren't you putting a little paragraph underneath the strip?" And I was like, "Well, I just do it if there's something that comes up about it." Yeah, but I really like that too. I'm like, "Oh, okay."
Mm-hmm.
So now I try to do it with each strip, something. So yeah, I agree.
Because that invests them in you, and that's something we've talked about before. Is because it is such a personal thing with you, and there are a lot of people who do identify with the situations, or they get the joke, or they maybe it is personal with them, so it has more uh, of a punch to their own personal lives, or maybe they're dealing with the same thing or the same issues, whatever, the same challenges, and they need a laugh too, and it plays on a lot of levels,
Right.
and so you become a sort of a character, a background character. Mm-hmm. I mean, not just in the strip itself, but in creating the strip, and so does Clay, by the things that he says and he comes off
Right.
with. So, and having met Clay and known Clay, I can hear him saying these things too. So, it's easy for me.
He's a character, ain't he, John?
Oh yeah, definitely.
You both got a little bit of taste of Clay a couple weeks ago down in Elizabethtown. Yeah, he wanted to be in the room with us going through that artwork. He didn't want to be hanging with Mom.
Yeah, it's much more fun with us. But, and it also, to add to what Bill's saying, it also, people love that, behind the scenes sort of stuff. If they like hearing that, you may have had a rough week, or you may have done this or done that or done whatever, or something went wrong with the strip, but you fixed it, or
right.
People just like knowing that stuff because it humanizes.
I think that's the key thing there. It humanizes us and it connects you with the strip. One thing, what we started doing is most of these webcomics have a blog area, because that way you can easily update, and every time you update that hits your RSS feed, and a lot of people watch these strips through their RSS feed readers. I never got into that end of it, but I know a lot of people do. And if they see your website's updated, they'll click on it and see what the update is. So by even just making a blog post, maybe not a new comic, you get to update that RSS feed. So that's important. But what I started off, our blog was mostly ADHD information, ADD information, stuff like that. And it ain't that I've ran out of that information. I just haven't had time recently to scan in any. But I'm thinking about taking the blog area there and doing more of the behind the scenes stuff, like when Jackie does a cool sketch, like she did Thanksgiving. Put the sketch in there. Make some posts on our con appearances, or post some artwork from that, or just make the blog personal. Make a note, say, hey, just posted some ADHD catalog stuff over at the community, and try to move some of that information over to the community area that Bill and I built over there, and try to drive some traffic over there, because we're not getting any yet. But I'm not surprised. It takes a long time to build up a community. But yeah, I agree. Personalizing, and that's what I really want to do with the blog area, is do more personals, give them more behind the scenes with sketches and character designs and some stuff like that. So I agree. Humanizing is correct. Making, I always say I'm one of those guys. Even, as long as I've owned Blue Line. I own a Blue Line, a paper company that produces art paper, and a online store that sells art supplies. But I'm in the trenches with them too. We publish Sketch Magazine. we're in the trenches creating comics also. I think that's what makes our Sketch Magazine stand out, and makes Blue Line stand out. We're not just a company supplying these guys. We, the three of us, are in the trenches with them, creating them. So I think it's important to get them involved in your strips. And I wonder how many people who come to Claysway have their own strips. I don't get many comments yet, so I'm anxious to start getting more comments from people. Or maybe people just don't leave comments. I don't know. But I'm really interested to see how things go, and I'm looking at numbers. Sorry, guys. And see how it builds. It builds up. So we've sort of discussed on what to create. We can't really tell you how to write it. Always suggest sitting down, writing out several scripts, get way ahead. Before we started doing Clay's Way, I had 40 scripts written. I still have, I think we may have drawn 15 of those, maybe 10. So we have them, but constantly we're writing new strips. And then when we have time and we want to crank out one of them that's pre-written, but have many strips written, like you said, John, have a backlog of strips ready to publish before you publish. That's what
Right.
any web creator out there will tell you. Be prepared, be ready, and have a backlog build up, ready to go. As far as getting it online, it's never been easier. And once you get your website, it's important to find the right website. I always feel like the website has to be easy to spell, easy to remember. You get your website, and then you download WordPress, the latest version of WordPress. It's a blog software. It's free. Download it, and then you go get Comic Press. There again, it's free. Comic Press is a template for WordPress, and it's pre-set up for you to design and tweak, and it's real easy to use. And you can create a real professional looking page quickly. Within a day or two, you'll have it down, and it makes publishing so much easier. No coding, no creating pages, no HTML. Makes it real easy. So that was a major factor in making online publishing possible, was these two pieces of software being offered. A lot of sites have converted over to them.
Well, that brings up a good
Yes.
question. What do you think of those sites that house multiple webcomics? The ones that have that really all the creator has to do is give their webcomic to that site, and that site runs it every whatever. There are several like that out there. What do you think of those?
Wowio bought one of them, didn't they?
Right, I believe so.
I
Yeah.
don't know. That was Duck something. I forget the name of it.
Drunk Duck.
Drunk Duck. That's it. Yep. Yeah, I have no problem with it. There again, you have to do less worrying on your end.
Right.
So you could spend more time building your audience. The thing is, also, I think when you go into something like that, you might benefit initially from a readership already being there. So your readership might pick up quicker.
Mm-hmm.
I don't see it working long term unless you just never want to run your own site. Then it's fine.
Right.
I mean, I think most of them offer you merchandising capabilities, so you have a way to merchandise from it. So I don't see a problem with them at all. If you absolutely don't want to mess with creating a domain and running the software, and believe me, it's easy. Then yeah, definitely, whatever it takes to get your stuff out there, don't hesitate, get it out there, and then you'll either grow into it and decide to mess with setting up that software on the side, and then maybe you can move your readership, or you start a new strip over there. and
Hmm.
then move things over. So, yeah, I don't see a problem. I see a lot of benefits from it if you're brand new into this. You don't have a readership built up, and they have the readership built up for you, basically, possible readership. So I see benefits from that. We sort of went another route ourselves, and Clay's way, and bit off a ton more than we probably should have to chew. But it's paying off. It's going to take a while, but the readership is starting to build. But it takes a lot of work. Um, so, but yeah, I don't see a housing service. I don't see a problem with it at all.
Yeah, I think you could. You started to hit on. Eventually, it becomes you get the benefit of that readership, but you also get the detriment of whatever else may be on the site, and the fact that you're sharing everything with this website. You can't claim full control of all the numbers. You can't claim much of anything besides
Right. Well,
besides your
I think
strip.
after a while, we look at it as well. Hopefully, you can get your own numbers, so you know if the
Right.
readership are coming over and reading you. And then,
Hopefully.
are you? The problem with a lot of those sites are you the prom queen? Are you the latest hot thing? If you've been there for a
Right.
while, and you see your readership falling off, it may be time to move it out or time to start something new because it may not be connecting. So it I don't know. I've never done it that way. I've talked to people who have, and
Right.
that's just the way they enjoy. They don't want to do the coding and stuff, and it's not that hard anymore. But um, yeah, I could see going that route. But um, you can't just throw it on the net and expect readers to come looking for you either. There's no way. So since we're talking about readers and everything, we get Bill involved in this conversation. Bill, what did we work on a year prior of launching Clay's Way?
And with Sketch Magazine and Comics Mentor and just every other thing that we've been doing, we've building and learning what works, what doesn't. Even the things like MySpace and I think Comic Space and a few others that aren't really functional for us now, or a lot of other people maybe. I don't know. We've been building on top of and sort of cross. I don't know, pollinating maybe with those sites and things, and getting the people who are maybe interested in what we're doing, so that by the time that Clay's Way came out, we already had several people that were following us that were following us as creators too.
Right.
So that when we say that, check this out, that carries a little weight with it. Not just, as if that happens like every 5 minutes, go check this out or look at this. Some things I will plug on Comics Mentor, and if I plug it, it's stuff that I like.
I've gotten readers from Clay's Way from Comics Mentor. And I've had people email me that's where they seen it on earlier ones. Yep. This podcast was a big thing that benefited from our social medias too.
Yeah.
We would post it, and then it would be almost like 3 days. I would post something, then you or John would do it the next day, and the other one would do it the next day. It was like 3 days we were all hitting our social media contacts about the post. So I think it really helped this podcast to really take off as well as it's done,
Yeah.
because we're constantly letting people know it's out there and it's free.
Yeah, and I think having the forum of comic related.
Oh yeah.
Having a place to leave comments, even though they can write us at podcast at sketchmagazine.net.
Yes.
and people do. I mean, we've gotten emails that go to all three of us. So,
Well, this podcast is because of an email, which we didn't start off with. So.
Right. But having even comic related and some of the other message boards or forums and things that even people that pay attention to us, or even on DeviantArt, some people sometimes will retweet or repost or share that link because they believe in us too. Or believe.
Go ahead. I'm sorry.
It's infectious.
It's funny. Yesterday I was on Facebook, and I know you're up over 2,000 friends. I've got over 2,000 friends. All of a sudden I saw a Claysway strip pop up under somebody's name I didn't know, and it was a retweet from you. I guess I tweeted it, or not tweeted, but posted. You come up and reposted. This guy grabbed it from you and reposted again. That's the wonderful thing about social media, especially when you're trying to boost something. And it's, there again, Claysway is free. Come and read it. Check it out. So, yeah, that was like, whoa, that's cool, So, but yeah, definitely work your social medias. Build up that list. It's like going to conventions almost. Now, my list, all my school friends, they don't care a damn what I'm doing. A lot of my other people in this industry is based off print medium. They really don't care about the web stuff, But I find my list is starting to get a key audience for the Claysway stuff because they're the ones who will not comment on the site, but they'll comment on the Facebook page about the strip. So it's definitely something that we never had in the past. Twitter, Facebook seems to be the most popular too. You want to definitely start building your list way ahead of launching your strip. But using it sparingly, correct, John?
Yes. Yes, it's very easy to bury people under things.
Tweet someone to death.
Yes. You don't want to tweet someone to death. You don't want to make every Facebook post you make about that particular thing. There are right ways to do it and wrong ways to do it.
There again, I think you need to put a little bit of personal stuff out there on your medias because people want to get involved with you. And sort of like today, I made a comment. I forget what it was. I take it back. I don't mind mowing grass. Just stop it from snowing. I got 5 or 6 emails on that. I agree. Stuff like that. Just had nothing to do with podcast, nothing to do with Claysway, nothing to do with sketch. Just something I threw out there because I was thinking it. I won't bitch again about the grass mowing. Just stop it from snowing. And it's amazing that little thing can catch people. And it's important to give them a little piece of you like that. I don't believe you need to put all your secrets out there. That's really up to you. But give them a little bit of who you are, what you're doing, and what's going on. And then they don't mind seeing the post about Sketch Magazine podcast is live, Claysway strips up, new Sketch magazines out there, So, sort of a balance thing. So, but I mean, that's one way to attract that readership that we're all looking for. We're all looking for that readership. I don't know what the key number is that you need to land before it's profitable. Claysway is nowhere near it yet. I haven't got to do a real convention season with Claysway, so I'm interested to see when I get out in public with it more is how much it will grow, because I believe it will grow once I get these imageries out there. But I don't know what the magic number is. I'll let everybody know what it is as soon as we know. But so we talked about writing. We can't really tell you how to draw. That's totally up to you. How to illustrate it. It's going to be your look, something you're comfortable with, and how to market it a little bit. There is a convention in New England that I wanted to do this a few weeks ago. Actually, it was the same weekend as Mid-Ohio Con. So I guess it was the first weekend in November, about a month ago. It was New England Webcomic Convention. Kate and I had talked about even just going to it, but we ended up sitting up at Mid-Ohio Con, so that sort of axed it. But I'm really interested. I think that is a way to take your setup, take your merchandise, and because people going there are people who read comics online. They're looking for new strips. They're looking to support the creators they're reading right now. I think that would be a great way to build your audience, is trying to do some conventions like that. And I'm hoping there's more conventions like that that pop up. I know I was talking to the guy, Andrew, who put on the Cincinnati convention here in town a few months ago. He put out a questionnaire. What would you like to see at our con? And he said the top number one thing was more web creators. So there's readers out there looking to support their favorite web creators by going to a convention and getting their merchandise. So hopefully that's an area that grows. Hopefully we'll start seeing more web conventions, so the readerships can get out there and really support the creators. So, but I think that's one way. The reason I didn't do New England, biggest thing is your web strip had to be 6 months old, which I don't blame him one bit. Clay's Way was like 3 weeks. We weren't even close. I would definitely go ahead this spring and put in for a table for next fall, because that's over. I want to be at that show. I want to try a show like that and see what I can do as far as helping the audience up. So we've talked about stories. It sounds like I've talked about stories and stuff. The key thing is making this. If you're doing this on the side, it's your hobby, great. Rock and roll. Work your day job. If you want to do this as a living, you have to figure out how to make money with it. And I think that's one of the most important things if you want to do this for a living. How do you build the audience up? We've talked about that. What do you do to merchandise it once you have that audience? And there's a key to this on what you merchandise and what you can offer readers. I'm losing my voice, guys. I didn't know I was going to have to do all the talking tonight. If you look at a lot of these websites, their merchandise is based around a couple key things. One, of course, collections of their strips. Put them in print and sell in trades. That's what we love comics. Most of us grew up with comics in print, so it's nice to have a collection like that. So definitely collections, either in comic format, or once you get enough strips, you do a graphic novel, and you sell the graphic novel. You can do. Many of the artists do artist editions. They'll do first 100 for an additional fee for the novel, and they'll do 1 through 100 artist editions, or 1 through 10, or however many you want to draw in. And of course, you make a lot more money. You make more money off of those because you do a personalized sketch in each one of those artist editions. A lot of these guys still, if you're doing original artwork, as I highly suggest you do, of course, being Blue Line, you do this traditionally, a lot of the guys sell the original artwork, and they make good money from that. I've seen the artwork priced as much as anywhere from $70, $80, $90 up to $150, $200 a strip. It all really depends on how long you've been around, how big your audience is, and what you're offering as far as your original artwork. Are you offering a complete piece where it's lettered and everything? Are you offering just a pen and inks because you're lettering online? What are you offering as far as your original artwork? But it's a way to create money. Jackie and I, the cool thing about Comic Press is that you can actually include in your strip each day or each post. You can put in there as if you sold a poster of it and how much you would charge for that, like a colored poster. And
Oh wow.
you can include a buy now, which they could click on and buy the piece of original artwork right then. So we price our original artwork at $90 right now. We haven't sold any. That's fine. I didn't expect to. But that's, I feel like, is a fair price. It's they're one and onlys. They're originals. I don't mind if I have a few hundred sitting around here waiting to sell, because I feel like that's a more than fair price for them. Not saying I won't do a better deal through the holidays or something like that. I've seen some of it priced pretty high, higher than that. So that's another clear-cut way. Guys like Kurtz, who does everything digitally, of course, he loses out on that original artwork sale. He loses out on that revenue stream. He does sell
Right.
prints of his strips, so he picks up some money that way. But a print of your strip, you're going to charge $5-10, something like that, if you sign them. So it's a collectible, personalized, but yet not as much as if it was an original or something. Other things that I've seen them do as far as merchandising, the collection seems to be the biggest. But I've seen buttons, stickers, shirts. A lot of them like the shirts because usually you can pick something out of the strip and print like a shirt. Okay. If any of you are readers of Claysway, I'm going to give you a heads up. After Christmas, we're introducing a new character who is going to be a thorn in Clay's side. His Lucy to Charlie Brown. And Clay accidentally does something that makes her mad. She basically turns it around and says, "All right, game on, Charlie Brown." And we were talking about today making shirts saying, "Game on, Charlie Brown," and quotes. Can I get in trouble with that? I don't know. I don't think so. Being a quote, I don't think so. I'm not looking to use logos or anything like that. But there's something that we think, yeah, that might be cute on a shirt. John, you've repeatedly said the exclamation mark.
Yes.
And we will be doing the exclamation mark, definitely. And the scarves.
Yeah.
The scarf for
Yeah.
Clay's Way. So there's ways to merchandise this. I want to do a stuffed panda with the scarf, So yeah, there's constantly ways of making money with this. So
Right. It's just easy, recognizable sort of things. I mean, you don't even necessarily have to go, into major detailed imagery. Like I was saying, that the exclamation point is just recognizable enough with Clay's Way that it could be on pretty much anything. And you would recognize it as that if you followed the strip.
right. That's what we wanted. We wanted to come up with an iconic image that we could market. And people would see, like Charlie Brown's zigzag sweater. Everybody knows that. You see a T-shirt with that print, and you go, "Oh yeah, it's Charlie Brown." Nothing on there said Charlie Brown except that imagery. So that's sort of what we were looking for in creating Clay's Way. So it's important to think about those things when you're creating. But the thing is, you can create all the merchandise you want, but you got to have the audience to sell it to. And like I said, it's a slow bleed. I'm going to share some numbers with people here. And we've been doing Clay's Way since sometime in August. And we've had 3,500 views.
Wow.
We've had 1,500 visitors. And that's all strictly built up from social medias. The three of us out there hitting it. As we've said earlier before the podcast, we haven't done a press release about it. We haven't really done any big announcements about it because I wanted strips online before that they could go in, read, and check out. The average time on our site is 1 minute 42 seconds. So they're going on, they're reading one. It looks like most page view is 3. So it looks like somebody's jumping on once a week and reading the past 2, if not 3 strips. So, and that's pretty common. We were averaging a 30% new visitor rates over each month. So it's showing growth. But we're 21 strips into it, 22 at the end of this week. It's time now for us to get out there and start doing some press release, start promoting, and get our store online. Are we going to benefit from it? I don't expect it to. It's going to take a while. But yet it's time to step up and show them that we can do this, that we're here. The cool thing, I might have mentioned this last week, is that it is getting recognition. We had a site called Totally ADD. Their website out there who believes there are easier ways for people who have ADD and ADHD to learn, and that's using audio and video instead of reading. And this gentleman, Rick, is one of the founders of the site. They contacted us, and they want to do a write-up about us just because somebody told them about our strip. They came over and checked us out. So return Friday strip's going to be Clay meeting Rick at Totally ADD, and he's got a question for him. So as soon as I saw their site, my whole family have been on their site. We've watched the videos. It's a wonderful site. But there again, the only way they found out about us is from the Facebook or social medias. So the word of mouth does get around. Their newsletter for ADD, she said it reaches something like 5,000 people. You know, when we get a write-up like that, it's going to reach another 5,000 people who is directly connected with this type of thing that we're talking about on the strip. Hopefully our readership jumps. So, guys, I'm talked out, man. I'm going to take a break.
Let's talk about.
Hey, you're the only one with
scams.
an actual webcomic right now.
I know.
So.
But you all need to throw stuff at me. Ask me some questions. Or we move on.
I did. We talked for an hour and a half. You've
We
realized,
talked for
right?
an hour. We got started an hour, a half hour.
Whatever.
Hey,
you get the
I can
idea.
listen to myself talk all day long, man.
Yeah, so can we. Obviously.
Obviously. All right. So even now, I think we've barely brushed the surface on webcomics. There's a ton of stuff to talk about advertising on your site. To put Google ads on your site. To put there's a couple other ad services out there. So I think what we'll do at this point, like you said, John, we've been talking over an hour.
Right.
It's put it to rest now. This is a good beginning. But I think it's something we come back in a couple months. We can update them where Clay's Ways is. We can see, I'll do more research on the ad end of things because it's another revenue stream. You can make ad money off your site. Only works if you have people coming to your site, though. Correct, Bill?
Yes.
Okay. Because you've got ads running on Comic Mentor, correct? Okay.
Yes.
So, and there's different ways to set those up. Unless you want to talk about it now, Bill.
No, I mean I just set them up to. Some of the things that I do, I just put on there to get familiar with things and sort of. Well, you know that I like to watch numbers and statistics and all that stuff. So I do that stuff, and that's a whole set of skills that I don't really have, is playing with web design and all that. So I play with it as I can to sort of get better at it at some point. So, pretty much I don't expect to make any money off of it, what little I do maybe goes for a trade paperback, some DC comic down the road. Who knows? But I'm not getting rich, and that's okay. That's not what it's about.
It's not.
So, no, that isn't. No.
Well, you
But
got some Project
Yeah.
Wonderful ads running,
yeah,
which you can set the price for. That's good.
Well, we
yeah,
should
yeah.
we
Go ahead.
should throw that out there. By the
What's
way,
that?
if you're looking to get rich off a webcomic,
Mm-mm.
don't start.
Nope.
Don't even
Nope.
bother. you, you might as well would be much better off being in it for the love of webcomics or the love of creating, because you may eventually make money at it, but starting out, it ain't gonna happen.
It's not. It takes a
No,
long time, and there it goes back to do something you enjoy.
right. And my theory has long been, if you're just doing something for the money anyway, your passion's not in it.
Right.
Why bother working that hard for something that isn't going to be an immediate financial return?
Right.
So, unless you're doing it for love, or the love of creating, or it's a story you really want to get out there, go find a day job somewhere, because webcomics are not for you.
No. 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 Hey, Bill. You realize you've been doing Comic Mentor for a year. Congratulations.
Hey, that,
I just checked out your archives.
wow.
Does it feel like a
You
year?
should throw yourself a party.
Woohoo!
Woohoo! And there is the extent of a Bill Nichols party.
That was Bill getting wild.
Yeah, sad, isn't it?
Ah. I'm going to get you out on convention circuit this year. Or I should say next
Yeah,
year.
good luck with that.
So,
Good luck with it.
cool. Yeah, we'll come back and talk about ads and stuff. I think that's a good future podcast, because there's ways you can make ad. And webcomics, like the Comics Mentor. Didn't I design a logo for you?
Yeah, yeah, but you need to put it up for me.
Oh.
'Cause I tried putting it up and I can't get it. That's one of those things that I can't do.
Okay. Well, I'll fix that.
Finding out where to plug it in is the thing that I'm having the problem with.
Right.
So,
Okay.
I can see it now. A picture of Bill sitting as the thinker on a stack of comics.
that's next.
Is that your next logo?
That'll be the next one.
All right, cool.
I'll fully credit you with that.
Excellent.
That would be funny.
I thought so.
But all right. So we've taken webcomics for an hour, and truthfully, guys, I feel like we barely touched the surface. Except I've heard myself talk way too much.
Then why were you listening to
I
yourself?
know, I can't help it. It echoes. So let's move on. John, so what's been going on over at Comic Related / Sketch Magazine online?
Not a thing. I haven't posted anything at all.
You-
No, that's a
You
lie.
dog.
That's a lie. I post stuff every day, and you all should know that by now. But if you haven't checked this site recently, the most recent post being using basic color theory in your work. As an art teacher, I think about that stuff occasionally, and it's kind of funny how it shows up in other parts of my life. So this is a little video from the Comic Book Art Institute, one of the few places that does comic books as an educational curriculum, or something you can actually get a degree at. And they're talking about basic color theory, how certain colors work well together. So check that one out. And staying on the whole basics route, my next one is about the basics of creating your comic book hero. As I say in the little write-up, I know I'm beating the same drum, but it really is important, at least from my point of view, that you get the basics down and you keep hitting on those basics. So, I can't reiterate that enough, but apparently I can at least reiterate it on the blog a few more times. So there's that. Then I have 2 posts from Harvey Picard. For people who don't know, he passed away earlier this year, and talking about someone with a unique voice and someone who uh, took a kind of sideways way into getting into comics and gained incredible notoriety for his work over the years. He's definitely one of the more famous names you could point to. So check that out. I think it's probably one of the last interviews that he ever did prior to his death. So go check those out. At least the one at the top. And then the second one is apparently more of a KET style interview. Then the next one, I'm personally a major fan of Neil Gaiman. I pretty much like everything he's done. And I found this video of him talking to people at Google. They have an author series where they'll have people come in and just talk about their work, talk about a variety of stuff, and also have a little Q&A session. I know they did it with Conan O'Brien once in between his 2 talk show jobs,
Mm-hmm.
and various other people. So check this out. It's funny. It's informative. It's pretty much everything that Neil Gaiman's work is. So go check that out. And then I don't know if people have been keeping up with the Green Lantern series, or Green Arrow series, and the Teen Titans lately. But the work of J.T. Kroll has really invigorated both those titles. And once again, it's one of those few things that is about a writer. You don't get to see a lot of interviews of writers, especially in video form. These days, it's usually talking to artists. So every chance I stumble across a writing video, I try to take it. So there is that. And then sticking with the DC vein, actually, this guy worked for DC and Marvel. His name is Steve Scott. Is talking in a brief interview at a convention about his process and how he approaches his work. And he's got a cool hat. So
Yeah.
there you go. And I think that that brings me back up to where we were last time.
I think so. So, Bill, what's going on over at Comics Mentor?
Daily doses of encouragement. Even if I don't post daily, there's plenty of posts to go back and read. A year's worth of posts to read. But we've been talking about doing what you love with whether it's webcomics or sketch cards, comics, all those things. And that's really a key issue is if you love to do it, do it. And get your stuff out there, learn about it, do research like Bob did with webcomics and all the things that he does. He doesn't just jump blindly into it, and you shouldn't either. I mean, you've got there are resources out there on all these things, and we have podcasts. This will be number 20.
Yes.
And we've got 19 others that you can go on and listen to if you haven't already. You can go on Comic Related Forum and respond to each and every one of them, because each and every one of them has a topic header, a thread that you can sound off on or ask questions about, or if there's something that you want clarified, or maybe you thought of something while you were listening to the podcast. Put that out there, and things come up, and that spawns another podcast, just like this. The one today was from an email. We've talked about webcomics some before, but not as a whole podcast.
Right.
So, and we will be having a sketch magazine art contest. I sent Bob the 3 pages that Andy Smith, the pencil pages, and we're going to pick one of those and use that as the basis for the inking contest. So stay tuned. to Comics Mentor, sketchmagazine.net, comic related. I'll announce it everywhere. So that's it from me.
Cool. Let's see. Clay's Way, of course, as we've talked about so much here. We've got Mondays and Fridays strips coming, and Blue Line, working at Blue Line. They got a great offer going on. With every $75 you spend, you get a free $10 gift card. So I know anything you buy there, you get a free gift card. So check that out. That was a newsletter that went out this week. And then just working on the next issue of Sketch with Bill, trying to prepare it, get it ready to go. So that's it with me. I head to Atlanta on Friday, and John, I think you're now following.
Yep, I'll be there.
So we will. 2 of the 3 of us will be in Atlanta, and Bill, we will miss you. Next year, we're dragging you with us, kicking and fighting. So how can I reach you, John?
You can always reach me through John at sketchmagazine.net, John at comicrelated.com, and now John at sequentialsupport.com. And more on that later.
Bill?
Email me at comicsmentor@gmail.com. You can usually find me on the comic related forum.
Cool. And you can reach me at bobh@bluelinepro.com, or you can catch all 3 of us at podcast at sketchmagazine.net. So thanks. Appreciate it. Thanks, guys.
Good night, everyone.
See ya.
Wow, you guys quit stumbling over yourself on the end of those. You've done well the past couple times.